Do you want to get into drums, or are you a drummer and just like to talk drums? I want to start teaching like the fundamentals, not the fundamentals of drumming, but the fundamentals of knowing what gear to purchase and why. Right now, I want to talk about specs, specifically the lug count on a drum. I'll focus in on the snare drum. So when you're getting into to drums and you're trying to find maybe a cheap $100 kit, you can go new and buy the just crappiest drum ever made, but it's new. Um, the heads are gonna last you 2 weeks. Um, the snare drums are just bad. Everything about it is bad. Most rack toms, like the smaller ones, or even the bigger ones too, just rack toms in general, they'll have like a 4 lug setup. Um, and then maybe they'll have a 5 lug. Better, um, better quality, more expensive drums have eight, not 8 lugs, but 6 lugs on on their toms. And same thing with floor toms. They typically have 6 lugs if they're kind of cheaper, and then nicer ones have 8 lugs. I don't think they do 10 lug. Maybe they do for 16 inch, or maybe they do for 18 inch. I don't know. But I like 14 inch floor toms. You're not gonna see a 10 lug on that. But mine is an 8 lug because it's pretty decent. But the rack tom is a 5 lug, not a 6 lug. Now you might be thinking like, whoa, 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 let's take a step. What is a lug? What is a lug? Okay, let me show you real quick. The lug on a drum is the thing that holds the tension rod, which is what you use to tune the drum. The lug is what holds the tension rod. Now, like I said, my rack tom, if you can tell, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a mid-level snare drum, not snare drum. This is a mid-level drum kit that, like I said, has 8 lugs for the floor tom, which is pretty good, but 5 lugs for the rack tom. Now it still sounds phenomenal. I love it, but that's the slight compromise that I have with, given the fact that I didn't shell out the extra money. Now I said I was gonna focus on snare drums. Um, most decent and even cheap, kind of cheap snare drums will have will most often have 8 lugs. Um, but some and I probably wouldn't go with a super cheap 10 lug snare drum, but they are out there. But if that means that if they got 10 lugs for a cheap um drum set, then the actual metal, the thickness, the durability, the longevity of that drum, that's where the compromise is. It's thinner, cheaper gear, cheaper materials.